Hello, welcome back to the channel and welcome to one of the most bizarre sounding beers I think I've ever reviewed. Now then, this is called the Barrel Chapters Verse 4, an Apricot Brandy Barrel Aged Imperial Stout, rocking in at a whopping 13%. Now, as you can see from the back of the can, this is actually made by Totally Brewed. It's part of their Barrel Chapters series, which is something they do at least most years as a kind of an end of year, big hurrah, this is our best of the best kind of stuff. And the one thing that really stands out when you pick this can up is the weight of it. I mean, I know an MP Stout's going to be heavy, but honestly, that's weighty. It's dense for sure. Now you might be wondering, what are the rest of the barrel chapters, what are the other verses, and why have I picked this one? Well, I'm going to tell you. On their website it says that the verse 1 is cherry bourbon. Sounds good, doesn't it, to be honest? But let's be honest as well, bourbon barrel aged things aren't exactly rare these days. I've had a lot of them this year and I thought, no, I want to try something different. Verse 2 was triple vanilla. Again, quite a lot of that around. Verse 3 was banana and coconut. Now, I love coconut deep, rich, dark beer, but I'm not a big banana fan, and these cans are a tenner a piece, so I wasn't going to take the risk. And then finally, number 4, Apricot Brandy. I will read you, before we get into it, just a brief description of what they say about this beer. It doesn't really give tasting notes as such, so we're not cheating. It says, for the final iteration of this year's barrel-aged beers, we got hold of some delicious Apricot Brandy barrels. They smelt so good that we decided to age this one with no adjuncts, letting the base ingredients speak for themselves. Which I think is fair to assume that the others then were adjunct beers, and this is not. So before we break into it, let's take a quick look at the can properly. Fantastic artwork there. This is probably, I think, the only series of beers that Totally Brew do that don't have their name on the front of them. I mean, just look at that. Look at that. Stunning kind of horror comic style. There you go, more info on there. I should have said already that Totally Brewed are a Nottingham brewery, and a very good one at that. There you go, the artwork there. Does it say Max Rock Art? Does that say? I can't read it on the camera. But yeah, keep going round. Just a fine looking thing. Hey, sorry to interrupt, but this is kind of important. Currently, only 29% of people who watch my videos regularly are actually subscribed to this channel, and in order to be able to bring you bigger and better content, that figure needs to get closer to 50%. So please, if you wouldn't mind, just click that subscribe button below the video. It doesn't cost you anything and it would help me a whole bunch. So thank you, and now back to the video. Of course, with such a prestigious beer, I'm going with my Twisted Hop Stemmed Allegra glass for this one. This is just about the best, especially for this style of beer. The room instantly smells like a winery, like the conditioning room at a vineyard. It's absolutely potent with big, rich, ripe, kind of dried, boozy fruit aromas. I've not put my nose anywhere near it. It's just effervescent. It's just going. Before that head dies away, let's take a quick look at the beer itself. Unsurprisingly, a jet black beer with a kind of just sub 1 finger toffee head on it. If I hold it up to the light, nah, nothing. Nothing. Solid black, no nonsense, as you'd expect. It's such a huge, whopping ABV. That head probably won't hang around due to the ABV, but while it's there, it looks decent. Right then, aromas. Oh, that's so unreal. I don't know if you'd put that under my nose without me knowing what it was at all. I might have said that this was wine, dessert wine, and for those who are unfamiliar with kind of boutique aged traditional Italian balsamic vinegar, I'm not talking about the stuff you get in the supermarkets and chuck on a salad. This stuff, when they age it, it goes syrupy, sweet. You could put it on ice cream. It's incredible, and it smells not too dissimilar sometimes to what this does. And it's interesting because it's boozy, it's fruity. There is absolutely apricot in there, but there's also an underlying deep kind of sultana raisin tone. with a shed load of booze with it. But what's odd is it doesn't smell intense. It's got like a softness, a pillowiness, just a super inviting aroma about it. When I first opened it, I was a bit scared. Now I'm very much looking forward to it. So let's get into it, shall we? Cheers. There's no denying this. That is a little bit ridiculous. Now then, I should probably make clear, I don't think this is the best beer in the world immediately. I'm not completely taken aback. I'm not sat here going, that's it. We're not going to bother with any more beers this year because this has done it. There are a few issues, but the sensation, given it's a 13% stout and it's a flavour profile that no one's ever really used to, I keep forgetting, Apricot Brandy barrel aged. It's got again, soft, sweet, boozy. Yes, the apricot's in there and the dried fruit and everything else, but also I'm getting a bit of kind of a glacé cherry kind of sweetness from it as well. And there is still hints to the core beer in there. It's not been taken by a fruit explosion. It's just a very different but enjoyable, say, boozy fruit experience up front. And then there's just a subtle, bitter, roasty afternote that just reminds you where it really came from. Now then, I said there's a few problems with it. It's very low carbonation, and that's not really a problem for me because I do not like heavily carbonated stouts of any sort, especially Impies. But I think some other people might complain about it. So that's not a criticism from my preference because this is spot on for me. But I think some of you may complain a bit that it's maybe feels a bit flat. However, whilst the mouthfeel is far from bad, given the weight in the can and now in the glass, this is a workout to keep this glass upright and in shot, to be honest. It's that dense. Somehow the mouthfeel doesn't come across that way. It's slick, it's soft, it's not splashy, but it's not exactly luxe either. It's, okay, really. Right then, top to bottom taste test time, and then we'll find out on the can what they think about it. So, initially, light bitterness, slight coffee note on the front of the tongue. I hadn't clocked that before, but actually there is a reminder straight away that this is stout season. This is not all about the fruit. And then, kind of first third of the tongue, you're getting that big, deep, raisin kind of, dark, almost mincemeat kind of experience. And then mid palate, a few sweeter notes, a bit of apricot comes in, a bit of vanilla perhaps, and it starts to feel very relaxed, which at 13% is incredibly dangerous. Back of the tongue, the heat picks up. We're into brandy territory now, slightly more intense with the heat of the booze, but I don't know, brandy just does this thing of, it's not quite vanilla, it's not quite fudge, it's not quite toffee, but there's this kind of quasi dairy-based sweetness that almost just stops it from being a bit too much, and that does come across in this. Of course, there is no dairy in brandy, but you know what I mean? It's that kind of lactose, almost like condensed milk flavour, I think, that you get out of a brandy sometimes. I'm probably talking absolute horseshit, by the way, so feel free to let me know if that is the case in the comments below. But and then super refreshing on the swallow. It's like there's no dryness at all. Really just like, there's no challenge there. And then actually the swallow's alarmingly soft. Like there's no booze hit at all, no spiking you in the throat. And then you just sit back and you start to relive all of those taste notes that you had before, but in a maybe more duller but more elongated fashion. They all start to come back in. As I say, bit by bit, you relive the beer and you're just left with a nice, subtle, sweet flavour with just tips of the hat of kind of traditional bitterness and kind of the coffee stout nature just lingering in the background. One thing I will say though is that this beer, kind of a lot of that apricot experience that you're expecting actually comes from the nose. If you block your nostrils off while you're drinking it, you might be a bit disappointed. The aroma is what becomes apricot heavy whilst you're enjoying it. And well, I want to say it's a beer you drink with your nose, but don't do that because you might drown. But You know what I mean. Anyway, let's take a look at the can. So, on the front, the barrel chapters, verse 4, Apricot Brandy, barrel-aged Imperial Stout at 13%. And on the back it says, for the final iteration of this year's barrel-aged beers, we got hold of some delicious Apricot Brandy barrels. They smelt so good that we decided to age this one with no adjuncts. We've heard this before. But then it goes on to say, layers of thick and creamy chocolate work perfectly with this unique brandy, giving notes of vanilla and subtle fruity spice, boozy but in a really good way. It's vegan friendly. It contains barley, oats, hops, yeast and water, and that's it. 13%. I'm glad they don't tell us how many units are in a can at 13%, I'll be honest. It's best before the middle of December this year, and then they just give us their normal info at the bottom there. But yeah, Totally Brewed. If you've not seen them or heard of them before, that's their logo. Strongly recommend trying their stuff out. And they are a dab hand, to be fair, pretty much any style, modern craft style, but their dark beers for me are always super, super well received. And the drinkability of that for a 13% is frankly ridiculous. Now, with that in mind, I am going to go away and enjoy that over the course of the next hour or so, because if I get too carried away, I'm not going to be able to get back down the stairs. So I think we'll leave it there. As always, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like it. If you haven't already subscribed, if you will be so kind, and I'll catch you next time. Cheers.